Within the limestone walls of Savannah's St. Catherine's Convent stands a chapel that has remained sealed since 1749. Local historians understand the reason. Within that space, investigators uncovered 23 pages of correspondence that the Catholic Church had tried to obliterate. These letters detailed something unbelievable, something with the power to dismantle the core religious tenets of colonial America. Sister Marie T. Zeller, the 51-year-old leader of the convent's disciplinary committee and a woman renowned for her strict enforcement of chastity vows, was with child. Yet this was no ordinary pregnancy. The father was a 17-year-old enslaved young man named Thomas, who was owned by the convent itself, and Sister Marie did not retreat in disgrace. Instead, she stood before the entire congregation and declared her condition a miracle from God. The events within those chapel walls did more than question religious doctrine. They revealed a web of secrets connecting Savannah's most affluent plantation owners to the Archbishop's own home. Tonight, after 275 years of silence, we uncover the truth of what transpired behind those convent doors. Before we delve deeper into the story of Sister Marie and the scandal that engulfed St. Catherine's, if you are captivated by shadowy historical enigmas, be sure to subscribe to Liturgy of Fear and enable notifications, because accounts this shocking are absent from every history book. I'm also interested. Where are you watching from? Share your state or city in the comments. I enjoy discovering where our community of mystery enthusiasts is based. Now, let us journey back to Savannah in 1748, to an era when religious institutions wielded absolute authority, and learn how one woman's assertion would unravel it all. Savannah, in 1748, was a place of stark contradictions. Established just 15 years prior as a utopian experiment that banned slavery and alcohol, the city had already forsaken its founding ideals. Rice plantations now dominated the riverbanks, operated by hundreds of enslaved individuals whose labor propelled Georgia into one of the most lucrative colonies. The city's religious institutions, Baptist, Presbyterian, Anglican, and Catholic, vied for influence over a growing population of 3,000 souls. St. Catherine's Convent occupied 3 acres near the town's eastern edge, its whitewashed structures visible from the main road. Founded in 1742 by French Catholic missionaries, the convent served multiple roles: a spiritual retreat for wealthy women, a school for planters' daughters, and an administrative hub for the church's expanding Georgian holdings. By 1748, the convent was home to 18 nuns, 12 novices, 47 students, and owned 9 enslaved people who maintained the gardens, kitchens, and grounds. Sister Marie T. Zeller had arrived from Quebec 7 years earlier, her reputation preceding her. At 44, she had already devoted 26 years to religious life. Her letters of recommendation portrayed a woman of unwavering devotion, untouched by worldly temptation, whose mere presence reminded others of their sacred promises. Mother Superior Josephine Beaumont had specifically requested her to reform St. Catherine's, which had attracted murmurs about its lax standards. The change was instantaneous. Sister Marie enforced French monastic rules with military exactness. She created inspection schedules, mandated confession 3 times weekly, and formed a disciplinary committee to investigate any suggestion of misconduct. The younger nuns learned to dread the sound of her footsteps in the halls, the way her gray eyes seemed to perceive through walls. She never raised her voice. She had no need to. Her silence carried more weight than any homily. Among the convent's enslaved workers, 17-year-old Thomas held a distinctive position. Bought 3 years earlier from a Charleston auction, he possessed a dangerous and illegal skill for an enslaved person. He had been taught to read and write by his previous owner, a merchant fallen into debt. The convent utilized his literacy for managing correspondence, inventory, and educational materials. Thomas worked mainly in the library, copying texts, organizing documents, and preparing school lessons. He moved through the convent like a specter, present yet unseen, performing his duties with quiet competence. The nuns had grown accustomed to his presence in areas typically off-limits to men: the chapel during early cleaning, the library in the afternoon, the corridors when delivering messages. His youth and education made him seem less threatening than the older field hands. Sister Marie had certainly noticed him. She noticed everything. But Thomas represented no particular concern, merely another instrument for the convent's operations. Or so everyone believed. The summer of 1748 brought sweltering heat to coastal Georgia. While the convent's thick walls offered some respite, the humidity made rest difficult. Night prayers stretched later as the nuns sought the relative cool of the evening. It was during these late services that others began to observe a shift. Sister Marie's prayer schedule had become irregular. For 7 years, her routine had been unchangeable. Now she appeared at strange hours, 10 at night, 11, sometimes past midnight. When asked, she explained she was seeking a deeper connection with God, that the Holy Spirit had called her to more fervent prayer. No one thought to question further. This was, after all, Sister Marie, the embodiment of piety. The first fissure in this facade appeared on the morning of October 3, 1748. Sister Agnes Fontaine, a young nun in charge of the linens, entered the laundry at dawn and discovered something that made her drop her basket. Among the soiled garments was Sister Marie's nightdress, marked with bloodstains in a pattern Sister Agnes recognized immediately. Women in religious communities were aware of each other's cycles. They lived too closely not to. But Sister Marie had not menstruated in 4 years. Everyone knew this. At 51, she had entered that time of life when such things ceased. Sister Agnes stood frozen, the nightdress trembling in her hands. She washed it 3 times, hung it to dry in the private room, and said nothing, but the knowledge seared within her. 3 weeks later, during morning chapel, Sister Marie fainted. She had never displayed frailty before. Mother Superior Josephine sent her to the infirmary, where Sister Catherine Mercier, the convent's medical attendant, examined her. What Sister Catherine found defied reason. She examined Sister Marie twice, sure she had made a mistake, then a 3rd time. Each examination confirmed the impossible. Sister Marie was approximately 3 months pregnant. Sister Catherine stood in the small infirmary, her hands shaking as she recorded her findings. She wrote the entry 3 times, crossing out each version, unable to find words that made sense. Finally, she wrote simply, "Patient presence with symptoms consistent with early pregnancy. This finding requires immediate consultation with Mother Superior." The meeting occurred that evening in Mother Superior Josephine's private office, a wood-paneled room smelling of beeswax and old paper. Present were Mother Superior, Sister Marie, Sister Catherine, and Father Benedict Hammond, the convent's chaplain. Sister Catherine presented her findings first, her voice barely a whisper. She detailed the physical evidence. Father Hammond's face flushed. "This is impossible. Sister Marie has served God for 33 years. There must be another explanation. A tumor, perhaps. I know the difference." Sister Catherine interjected with a boldness that surprised everyone. "I have attended 17 births in this town. This is not a tumor." Mother Superior Josephine turned to Sister Marie, who sat with perfect posture, her hands folded, her expression serene. "Sister, you must tell us the truth. How did this happen?" What Sister Marie said next would reverberate through Savannah for generations. "It is a blessing from God," she stated simply. "The Lord has chosen me as his vessel, just as he chose the Virgin Mary. I have been faithful to my vows. I have never broken my promise to God, and yet I carry new life within me. If you doubt me, examine my conscience. You will find it pure." The silence that followed was suffocating. Father Hammond gripped the desk, his knuckles white. "Sister," Father Hammond said carefully, "are you suggesting this is a virgin birth, that you've been impregnated by divine intervention?" "I'm suggesting nothing. I'm stating what I know to be true. I have remained faithful to my vows and I am with child. Draw whatever conclusions you wish." The meeting concluded without resolution. Father Hammond left to send an urgent message to the Archbishop in Charleston. Mother Superior confined Sister Marie to her cell, not as punishment, but for her protection from the scandal and chaos this would unleash. But secrets in closed communities spread like water through stone. By the next morning, every nun knew. By afternoon, the students' whispers had reached their parents. By evening, the story had infected Savannah like a plague. The enslaved workers heard the news through the kitchen staff. They gathered after dark, speaking in hushed tones about the scandal in the main house. Thomas, who had been transcribing a new Bible, said nothing. He sat in his shared cabin, his face a mask, but those who knew him saw that he had stopped eating. For 3 days he took no food, drank only water. His hands trembled, and late at night they heard him weeping. The Archbishop's response arrived within a week. His letter, sealed with red wax and marked confidential, offered instructions that brooked no argument. Sister Marie was to be examined by a panel of 3 physicians, questioned under oath, and if found to have broken her vows, immediately defrocked and expelled. The scandal had to be contained. Dr. Robert Drayton of Charleston arrived first, known for his discretion. He was joined by Dr. James Pritchard, Savannah's most respected practitioner, and Dr. Samuel Whitefield, who specialized in women's health. They examined Sister Marie on October 28th. All 3 concurred. She was approximately 15 weeks pregnant. Their report, preserved in the Charleston Diocesan archives, used cautious language but was unambiguous. The patient exhibits all standard markers of natural conception. We find no evidence of medical anomaly or divine intervention. The interrogation began the next day. Bishop Marcus Fenwick had traveled from Charleston, bringing Father Thomas Donnelly, a Jesuit skilled at extracting truth. They questioned Sister Marie for 11 hours over 3 days. She never faltered, her story perfectly consistent. She had maintained her vows, never been alone with a man, never engaged in any act that could lead to pregnancy. She accepted her condition as God's will. On the 4th day, the interrogators shifted tactics. Father Donnelly produced the convent schedule logs, the very records Sister Marie had created. He asked why her prayer schedule had changed, why she had been in the library at odd hours, why she had requested access to the locked storage chapel on 17 occasions. Sister Marie answered calmly. The prayer changes reflected spiritual needs. The library visits were for research. The chapel access was to inspect stored texts. Then Bishop Fenwick asked the question that fractured her composure. "Sister, do you know a young man named Thomas?" For the first time, Sister Marie hesitated. The pause lasted only 3 seconds, but everyone noticed. "Thomas works in the library," she said, her voice steady but something altered. "I've assigned him copying tasks. Why do you ask?" "Because Thomas has requested to speak with me," the bishop said, "and what he wishes to confess, sister, concerns you." Thomas stood in the bishop's temporary office and spoke words that changed everything. He had gained this audience after sending a note to Father Hammond, written in his careful script. "I know the truth about Sister Marie T. Zelair's child." What Thomas revealed over the next 2 hours depicted a reality more complex than anyone had imagined. He confirmed that Sister Marie was not lying, not exactly. She had maintained her vows, never engaged physically with a man, but the pregnancy was not divine. It was the result of artificial insemination. The concept was not entirely unknown in 1748, though largely theoretical, discussed in European scientific journals and condemned by religious authorities. Sister Marie had read about these experiments in the convent's restricted library. She believed God was calling her to demonstrate that devotion could transcend physical limits. She would become pregnant while technically keeping her vows. The procedure required Thomas to provide reproductive material in a glass vessel. Sister Marie would then use a specially prepared syringe, commissioned from a Charleston merchant under false pretenses, to transfer the material. No physical contact would occur. Her chastity would remain technically intact. Thomas had refused initially, understanding the mortal danger he would be in, but Sister Marie had used the one form of leverage he could not resist, freedom. She promised him manumission, showing him draft documents and her personal commitment. Help her, and she would secure his freedom before the child was born. The procedures took place in the locked storage chapel late at night. 7 attempts between June and early August. The 8th on August 12th succeeded. "Why are you telling us this?" Father Donnelly finally asked. "She offered you freedom. This confession guarantees your death." Thomas's response revealed a pain deeper than fear. "Because she lied to me. The freedom papers she showed me were forgeries. I saw the real documents 3 days ago. She never had the authority. She used me, put me in mortal danger, and never intended to keep her promise. I will not die for her pride." The bishop ordered Thomas held in secured quarters for his own protection. Rumors of an enslaved man's involvement with Sister Marie had spread, and mob violence was a real threat. The church faced an impossible dilemma. Technically, Sister Marie had not broken her vows through physical contact, but she had orchestrated a premeditated subversion of divine and natural law, using scientific procedures to achieve pregnancy while claiming technical virginity. And she had manipulated an enslaved young man, risking his life for her own theological experiment. What happened next would force the Catholic Church to confront questions it had never before faced. But before we continue, I want to hear from you. Do you believe Sister Marie truly thought she was executing God's will, or was this a calculated effort to achieve the impossible? Share your perspective in the comments. I read every single one, and if this account has shocked you as it did me, please like this video and share it with someone who appreciates dark historical mysteries. Now, let's discover how the church attempted to contain this scandal. The church convened an ecclesiastical tribunal on November 15, 1748, the first of its kind in Georgia. 5 senior clergy members met in the convent's sealed main chapel. The proceedings were to remain utterly confidential. Sister Marie appeared before them in full habit, her pregnancy now undeniable at nearly 6 months. She stood with the same serene expression, her hands resting on her abdomen. The lead interrogator, Cardinal Sebastian Hartley, began. "Sister, do you understand why you stand before this tribunal? I understand you doubt God's power to work miracles. Sister, we have heard Thomas's testimony. We know about the procedures, the equipment, the texts. This was not a miracle. This was a deliberate manipulation of natural processes." "Is there a difference?" Sister Marie asked calmly. "God created nature. God created science. If I use tools He provided to achieve His will, how is that different from any other miracle? Did Jesus not use mud to heal the blind man? All miracles employ earthly elements." Her theological argument was sophisticated. Father Donnelly presented the evidence systematically, the medical journals, the syringe, Thomas's testimony. He argued she had committed fraud, attempting to manufacture a miracle. Sister Marie countered each point. Yes, she had studied science. Wasn't that a form of worship? Yes, she had used tools. Weren't they instruments of God's healing? Yes, she had involved Thomas. Hadn't God often used the humble to achieve great works? You coerced an enslaved man. Cardinal Hartley said, his voice rising. You promised him freedom you couldn't deliver. You put his life at risk. Where is God's will in that deception? For the first time, Sister Marie's composure cracked. Thomas misunderstood. I told him I would do everything in my power. I intended to petition for his reward after the birth. His freedom was always my goal. But you showed him forged documents. Father Donnelly interjected. You deliberately misled him. Sister Marie was silent for nearly a minute. I showed him documents that expressed my intent. Whether they carried legal authority was irrelevant to the larger purpose. Thomas was never in danger. I would have protected him. Cardinal Hartley stood, his chair scraping stone. There are mobs forming outside this building. Your protection means nothing against that reality. The tribunal recessed. During this time, news arrived that a group of men, led by plantation owner Harrison DeVoe, had tried to force their way into Thomas's quarters. Only armed guards prevented violence. The tribunal reconvened with urgency. Cardinal Hartley delivered their judgment. Sister Marie was to be immediately defrocked and expelled. She would be confined to a private Charleston residence until the birth, after which the infant would be given to a Catholic family. She would be permanently exiled from Georgia, never permitted to claim religious authority again, never allowed contact with the child, and never to speak of these events. Thomas would be sold, not as punishment, but as protection. A Catholic merchant in Boston had agreed to purchase him and transport him north, where anti-Catholic sentiment would obscure his connection to the scandal. He would remain enslaved. The promise of freedom died with the ruling. Sister Marie received this without emotion. She asked only one question: "What will you tell people about the child?" Cardinal Hartley's response carried the weight of an institution protecting itself. "We will tell them the truth. A woman who once served the church fell prey to pride and deception. There was no miracle. The child is evidence of sin, not blessing." But Sister Marie smiled, a small, knowing expression that chilled everyone present. "You can tell them whatever you wish, Your Eminence, but the child will be born." And when people see a healthy infant born to a woman of 51, who doctors said was barren, when they see that child thriving against all probability, what will they believe? Your explanation or their own eyes? The birth occurred on February 9th, 1749, in a secluded Charleston house the church had rented. 3 sworn secrecy midwives attended, with Dr. Drayton supervising. Sister Marie had been transported there in January. She was accompanied by Sister Agnes and Sister Catherine, living in near total isolation. Dr. Drayton visited weekly, monitoring the pregnancy with growing amazement. It proceeded perfectly against all medical expectation. Labor began in the afternoon. Sister Marie refused laudanum, wanting full awareness. She pushed for over 4 hours. Her iron will sustain her at 3:17 in the morning on February 10th. The baby was born. The infant's cry filled the room, a strong, healthy sound. A girl, the midwife announced, perfectly formed. Dr. Drayton handled the delivery and aftermath. Against church orders, he allowed Sister Marie 12 minutes with her daughter. Complete denial risks perilous melancholy, he insisted. Sister Marie held her daughter, her expression a complex mix of triumph, grief, and wonder. "They will tell you I deceived people," she whispered to the infant. "They will say I manufactured you through pride. But I was barren, medically barren, yet you exist, you breathe, you are perfect." She looked at the child. Whether I used science or faith, something beyond understanding happened. "You are my testimony." After 12 minutes, the infant was taken. Sister Marie turned her face to the wall and did not speak for 3 days. The adoptive family, Jonathan and Susanna Redmond of Virginia, arrived in Charleston. They were a devout, prosperous, childless couple, vetted for their discretion. Bishop Fenwick handed them the baby and explained the conditions. They were to tell everyone the child was their natural daughter, born to Susanna after years of infertility. They would never reveal the truth. They named her Charlotte, baptized her in their parish church, and raised her as their own. She would never know her true origin. Sister Marie remained in Charleston for 2 months, physically recovering but mentally collapsing. The woman of iron will had broken. She wrote extensively, letters, arguments, reflections, most of which were later destroyed by the church. Only 3 letters survived, hidden by a sympathetic young priest. In them, she grappled with her actions. She defended the pregnancy as a partnership with divine purpose, but expressed profound remorse for her sin against Thomas. "I have sinned grievously against Thomas. I treated another human being as a tool rather than a soul equal in God's eyes." In April, Bishop Fenwick delivered the final sentence. Sister Marie would be exiled to the convent of the Sacred Heart in Quebec, a cloistered community of perpetual silence. She would take new vows of absolute silence and obedience. Officially, Marie T. Zilaire would be listed as deceased in 1749. She was transported to Quebec, arriving on May 27th. The woman who had once commanded corridors now joined the Silent Sisters without a word. Her ultimate fate is unknown, as the Quebec convent burned in 1763. Destroying all records, Thomas's journey was more perilous. In Boston, his owner, Isaac Petton, found him capable, but the city's anti-Catholic fervor, fueled by rumors of the scandal, made his presence dangerous. When a preacher named Jonathan Cole identified Thomas and led a mob to demand him, Petton arranged for Thomas to be shipped to Halifax, Nova Scotia. There, Thomas worked for merchant William Barrett, managing warehouse records. He survived a brutal winter, but, weakened by illness and malnutrition, vanished from the historical record after 1750. He may have died, gained freedom in the frontier, or joined a community of free black settlers. His true end remains a mystery. Charlotte Redmond lived a life completely separate from her origins. Raised in comfort and educated, she married Edward Fitzgerald, had 4 children, and lived a contented, respectable life until her death. In 1822, at age 73, she occasionally expressed feelings of disconnection she could not explain, but she never learned the truth about her birth. St. Catherine's Convent never recovered. It was closed in 1758, its property sold and converted into warehouses. The storage chapel was sealed shut, its secrets entombed behind brick and mortar, where they remain to this day. This scandal serves as a stark reminder that history's most disturbing mysteries often involve real people whose lives were shattered by forces beyond their control, and by institutions that valued their own reputation above truth and justice. What is your view of Sister Marie's actions? Was she a woman of faith believing knowledge and devotion could coexist, or was she driven by pride? And what of Thomas, whose only crime was a desperate hope for freedom? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this dark tale from America's hidden past compelling, subscribe to Liturgy of Fear, enable notifications, and share this video with someone who loves historical mysteries that challenge our understanding. Until next time, remember that the darkest chapters of history are often the ones the powerful tried hardest to erase.